Federal Reserve policymakers continue their two-day meeting today as we attempt to recover from the lockdown economy. Joining us right now, Cato Institute Senior Fellow in Economic Studies, Scott Lincicome. Scott, welcome back to the National Desk.
Great to be back.
So we know a decision on interest rates will be discussed today, decided today. What can we expect to come out of this Federal Reserve meeting?
Yeah, I actually wouldn't expect much of a surprise on rates. I think those are going to stay rather low for quite a while. But I am looking to see what the Fed's going to signal regarding its intention to stop or slow its emergency purchases of about $120 billion in securities, or what we call quantitative easing, every month. Some Fed watchers blame these purchases for housing price bubbles and other asset price bubbles. And so I'm looking to see if the Fed is going to move quicker on that or stay the course. I think the other big thing is the uncertainty out there right now. You know, the Fed has a really tough job of trying to balance the current price increases, which they say is transitory, potentially trillions more in unfunded government spending on infrastructure and other Biden administration priorities, and now the potential for slower growth because of the Delta variant. And that's just so difficult to balance. And I'm hoping they stay humble, which they really admitted that, you know, there's a lot of uncertainty there.
You mentioned that they say this is transitory. What do you think, though? Is this here to stay, this inflation that we're seeing?
Well, I think it's going to be here for longer than the Fed and others initially thought. You know, transitory was initially defined as about 3 months or so. Now I think it's going to be with us till at least the end of the year. And it could extend a little longer. But, you know, the big questions are not just Fed policy, but also fiscal policy. How much spending, how much unfunded spending is going to happen? Right. And then also the state of the U.S. and global economies. Because let's face it, with the Delta variant and all these other uncertainties are out there, it's really difficult to predict how much growth and how much demand we're really going to have.
I want to talk about this report that you recently published regarding the industrial policy here in the States. Now, many from both sides of the aisle have embraced the idea of growing America's presence when it comes to industrial policy, but you argue this is a bad idea. Tell us why.
Right. I think it's a very bad idea. And both the House and the Senate and the White House want to spend tens of billions of dollars subsidizing new advanced industries and technologies. But they seem to have forgotten that the United States has a long and ignominious history of trying to use tariffs and subsidies and other economic planning to pick winner industries. And yet these policies routinely impose high costs. They fail to meet the economic objectives, and they foster a lot of cronyism, uncertainty, and political dysfunction along the way. And, you know, we maybe remember Solyndra, but there are many other Solyndras out there littering the U.S. history books, and regardless of the party in charge. And the other big thing, I think, is that this seems to be a solution in search of a problem. You know, U.S. R&D spending just hit an all-time high, fueled by private investment. Venture capital investment is setting records. Manufacturing investment and output before the pandemic was doing great. And the supply chains, even during the pandemic, worked pretty well given all the craziness out there. Yeah. And then finally, the China justification, I think, is a bit overblown. Sure, it's a risk, but China has its own economic and geopolitical headwinds. And we seem to ignore all of them.
So instead of industrial policy, what should we be focused on when it comes to trying to grow America's economy?
Right. I mean, I think we should lean into what America does best, which is free markets, openness, and economic dynamism, not China-style economic planning and protectionism. And so what do I mean? I think this includes, attracting global talent. We want the smartest people from around the world to keep coming to the United States, remaining relatively open to foreign trade and investment, and encouraging private sector investment and innovation through unburdensome and predictable tax and regulatory policy, not new and uncertain initiatives to subsidize national champions or somehow tax our way to prosperity. I mean, we have a playbook that works pretty darn well, and I'm hoping we go back to it.
All right, Scott, great to talk to you. Thanks for joining us this morning on your Wednesday. Have a good one.
Great to be here.